I'm starting it. Hi.
Okay.
So, Mateo and I here. I'm Tyler, and we're doing a little talk about Last Guardian.
Shit, yeah.
Yeah.
Best game of all time. No, it's not the best game of all time, but it's my favorite, probably.
Oof.
And I say that not lightly.
You're a man who plays a lot of video games.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of, that Dragon Quest Builders.
that was like, here's the bar for, favorite game of all time.
Yeah.
Here, this is Dragon Quest. All
Yeah,
right,
no,
and
Dragon
then
Quest is
here's
very
Last
good.
Guardian. All right.
Yeah, no, I mean, ask me before The Last Guardian, I would have said, The Last of Us, hands down.
Mm.
But The Last Guardian, I think, is my favorite game of all time. Not because of what it ended up being, but partly because of how long I've been waiting for it, and then it actually coming out and being what I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said about that. And, of course, what do I mean when I say what I wanted it to be? Well, we're going to talk about that.
Here we are.
Right? Okay, so I figured the first thing we talk about, we're going to go through stuff that is not spoilery. And then towards the end, we'll talk about, like, the minutia of the story.
Which is a hefty one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we'll say. And you can click away or whatever the fuck you want to do. And, yeah, so let's just talk about, like, gameplay at first, because this is the most, like, divisive part of it, where it seems like you either love it or you hate it.
Yeah. No, it's true. And judging by the fact that you said it's probably your favorite game of all time, you probably love that gameplay.
I did. Yeah, I mean, like, I wrote a review for this game, and depending on when you're watching us, it might be up on our website, modernDayRenaissancemen.com. I said, you play as the boy the entire game, and my consensus on the way, like, it controls, which is definitely, like, the part that people, like, love to talk about, is that it controls really well because you're no older than 8 years old, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's, like, this stumbling elegancy to the way that he walks around, like, the environments, and he is, like, has this constantly kind of flustered demeanor about him.
To me, it felt like the way Eco meant to be designed.
Yeah.
And it did, like, Eco didn't quite hit it.
Yeah.
But Last Guardian hit that feeling just right.
Yeah. Eco felt like the human equivalent of a flip-flop, where, like, he was, like, walking around and it was just very, like, heavy steps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where this game definitely felt like he was, like, kind of, like, light on his feet, but he's still, like, a kid, and
So he's not fully, he doesn't have his
It felt like your motor skills aren't, like, fully, like, there yet.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
you know what I mean, where, like,
Yeah.
you walk around much more confidently as, like, an adult than you did as a kid. And, like, there's something to be said about that, because I think that's a great achievement on its own, let alone with Trico, which I'm sure we're going to talk about a bit more, unless you have anything to say about
Boy.
Yeah.
I thought that it was believable, and that's a very hard thing to achieve in video games in general, is just anything being completely believable. And I mean, not to, because I'm sure we'll dip into the art style a bit later,
we will.
but the art style of the boy I thought was just awesome.
Yeah.
Specifically to me, I don't know why.
Like, I've run into a couple people so far that have said, like, oh, the boy is, like, he doesn't look like he belongs there. It's like, well, because he doesn't belong there, number one, right? And technically, in the story context, he doesn't belong there. However, somebody was saying, like, oh, why does the boy look so bad, but the Trico looks so detailed? I'm like, that's, like, not the point, though.
No.
They could have made a boy that looked, like, just as realistic as the Trico does, but they didn't, and I'm sure there's some sort of, like, deeper meaning behind that I don't know about. But, like, the way I looked at it was that he's stylized like that, kind of like the Wanderer is in Shadow, and the boy is in any of the human characters in these games. They're always, like, stylized in that, like, pseudo anime kind of I don't want to say watercolor.
Whereas I felt like Wanderer was more like Final Fantasy type of, like, anime style.
Are you thinking like Final Fantasy, like, 13?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Specifically 13.
Yeah, okay.
And I think that the boy in Last Guardian was more Studio Ghibli.
Oh, yeah. That's
type.
a good point. Yeah. It's just he doesn't match with the rest of the world always. He matches, however, with the overall kind of, like, and I don't want to say monotone art style,
The
but
atmosphere of the game.
like when you go outside for the first time in the beginning. I played the intro again last night because I hadn't played it in a while, and it's when you first walk outside after you get through like the first cave or whatever. It's you look out into like the tower, and like it's kind of like fogged over a bit. Everything has like this white hue to it.
Yeah.
And like when you look at the sky, it's just completely like white essentially. And
that detail comes like when they go into nighttime, and then, in that the part nearing the end where it's like kind of horizon.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful.
The art style is just phenomenal, and it just works. It works all through the game. But back to gameplay, to get a little bit more centric on that, I thought the gameplay. I've been hearing all these people talk about how it's like no different. There's no separation between Shadow, Eco, and Last Guardian, and that is absolutely not the case.
Yeah.
The gameplay for Last Guardian was miles above Shadow of the Colossus and Eco.
As it should be. I mean, in my opinion, the main complaint with this game seems to be that people didn't like the way it controlled. But I mean, if you ever played any of the other two games, I mean, they control a very similar way, and they don't control as well, in my opinion. Now, like the camera, which we should talk about, is not that bad. It's not good by 2016 standards, but my the thing I came up with, like after thinking about it for a long time, is you have this giant character, successfully traversing these, kind of admittedly like small areas sometimes, and like to make him, fit in there, be able to have however many thousands of animations I'm sure he has to be able to traverse any of these corridors. I mean, that's an achievement. And then to have the camera not 100% of the time be wigging out because you're in that same hallway as he is, I think is also an achievement.
It is. No, you're right. And to put it in that
it's
context, it like if other games had, let's take Final Fantasy for example. I mean, there are times when the camera goes wonky in that game, and there's like nothing
you're totally
obstructing.
Outside. Yeah, it's just like there's times in that game where like I'm like fighting, I'm doing like a hunt. And then there's just a bush in the way. I can't see anything happening.
Yeah. That happens time and again in that game. And I mean,
I think it's less of an excuse for that. And before anybody says anything, fanboy with the fucking Last Guardian shirt. I bought this shirt yesterday. Okay, I'm not making excuses for this game because I still don't think it's a good camera, but I still don't think there is any good situation.
Yeah, I mean, for it. As a person who just getting into this realm now, I think that the camera is a little especially a bit near the end that I was going through, the part with the double towers.
Oh yeah, we'll
get into that in spoilers. Spoilers later, but that's not really a spoiler. It's
it's not
just a level.
How many double towers in this game? I don't know.
There's probably a lot.
Yeah,
but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and the camera was just going berserk.
Yeah, I didn't have any problems there. I mainly had problems towards the beginning of the game, like right after you finally get control of the Trico. There's a section where you have to go through like this dark area, and you need like his horn and his eyes light to guide you, and so you can see everything. And like I was having a hard time like kind of seeing what was going on there. But that was like the main time where I remembered I was like, man, this is an issue. Like I don't know how you fix this. I don't think you do. In my opinion, like I just don't think there's a way.
In every conversation about Last Guardian, there is I would say there's two kind of elephants in the room. Let's talk about the first one, which would be Trico's AI.
I mean, I think it's just good AI, but I'm in the minority on that one. Where like right now I'm writing a piece about I'm gonna do a whole video about the history of like the development of this game and like everything that we've seen, right? Because there's certain behind door shit that you're never gonna know about, unfortunately. Like what happened, you don't know. You're not gonna know, and
he's apologized for it time and again. But
but he's never gonna say exactly what happened, because especially in a lot of studios like that, like a lot of Japanese studios, there are people that probably work for like Famitsu that know, but they're not allowed to say anything. There's probably some people like in the media that really like are deep in like the Japanese sector like that probably know, but you're never gonna know. So just don't even worry about it. Like he said, since as far as I looked back, after the first delay, I think they did a they invited a lot of even like Western outlets to come in right before he left Sony full time, and he was talking about how they're doing this demo. Like, there's a specific Eurogamer piece that's like very detailed about like what they saw, and like it's probably the best account of what I can find from what this game was before it came to PS4, and it was the same way where they said, hey, he might not listen, but we made him that way because if you call your cat over, is your cat gonna walk over to you? No. Like 100% of the time? No, he's not. So there's, in my experience, there was this playful kind of banter between the boy and the Trico that like I found kind of endearing, because how many times have I just been like yelling at my cat, just be like, yo, come over here, like what are you doing? Like trying to give you a treat, like he's just like looking at me,
Right.
And I mean,
because he's an animal.
Yeah, he's an animal.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of like what made me so impressed with Trico. Mm-hmm. But what did you find like with all that? Like, what do you think? Where do you fall in this argument? Because there's two very, very different sides.
I'm on your side, I would say, with a little reservation.
Yeah.
Because I did run into, especially, I took there was about a week there that I was just not playing the game.
That's true, yeah.
And that week was primarily spent off of it because I was at a part that was so frustrating to get his AI to work. He kept jumping on the wrong tower, and I was right the whole time. When the puzzle was finally solved last night, when I finished it, I was like, well, that's what I was trying to do the whole time.
Yeah.
And he was just not doing it. And that is frustrating to not be. There were times where I forgave it because of how like it would not work for a little while. It was kind of cute that that it wasn't happening, and then it would happen. I'd be like, okay, that's fine. But this one particular time, it was very frustrating. It took him I want to say a full half hour to get it.
That's crazy. Yeah, see, none of that ever happened to me, so I'm in a different boat here.
Yeah, that happened to me, and I was very confused and frustrated, but I figured it out, and I mean, now that I'm done the game, I'll say it was well worth it, worth all the struggle, and it honestly does give the story more weight. Mm-hmm. So it gives the story a little bit more weight. I think that the bond that you kind of grow with him is, or her. It could be a her. Now I'm really thinking about it. But
let's talk about that later, because I get it.
You got something. Oh my god. Yeah. But I think that the bond that you grow between you and the Trico is very cemented by the fact that you have these struggles to interact, and the bond it grows. It's a great story. I will say I think it's a little too long.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I think the game's too long.
Okay. Yeah, so I didn't fall in that camp. But,
or if it was this length, they should have given us more story or more exposition, because
part of what I liked about it was that they never really verbally there's very few words said in the game, and it kind of throughout the course of the game I didn't feel that it was just puzzle room. I felt here's this cool moment with Trico, we're having fun, maybe I'm gonna pet him till he goes to sleep here,
Well, I had moments. Yeah, I mean, I think anybody who is actually enjoying the game is going to have moments like that.
Yeah, it is definitely one of those games where if you go into it and you don't expect to enjoy it, you're not gonna enjoy it.
I will it's not one of those. It's a game that I love, and if if I was to score it on a scale of 1 to 10, it would probably be at 10 for me.
Yeah.
But it's not a game that I'm going to go to somebody and say, you should play this game right now. Yeah. I'm going to say to them, I'm going to give them a lot of caveat and say, if you're in the mood for a really good story and a really, really slow atmospheric play style, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But for anybody, any of your Doom, Call of Duty, regular gamers, it's not that scene at all.
No, you're gonna hate it.
You're gonna hate it. Yeah.
It sucks. Yeah. I mean, like, that's true, and that's what I would say about like Shadow of the Colossus as well, where I don't like Eco's my favorite, or used to be my favorite one by then. Now Last Guardian is, but like I would never recommend those to just anybody because I feel like it's like such a tough sell.
Yeah.
Where it's like, what do you do in Eco? Will you you hold this girl's hand through the entire fucking castle and you
for 6 hours.
Yeah, and then you eventually make it out and it's great.
You have like combat.
Yeah, and like that stuff, like, well, let's talk about combat in this game. So I thought it was sick. I thought it was so smart.
Let's talk about it because I think I looked at your trophies on it. I looked at mine.
Oh,
we played a very different way.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so I saw the trophy ahead of time for you can, if you go up to them and you hold the grip button, you can rip their heads off.
I learned that when I looked at, I didn't look at the trophy list before. I was gonna try and save it and earn as many organically as I could, but I only ended up getting 3.
I just saw that one in passing and I was like, oh yeah, let me try this. I think the game briefly, like, it very briefly mentions it. And it's really hard to do because you have to have Trico. Like, I spent most of the time, like, I didn't even get that until something that we'll talk about later. Yeah, I spent most of the time trying to get Trico in there. Like, there's those scenes where you have to stealthily, like, go past all of the guards and you let him in and then he'll kill them all. And, like, that's great. I love that. Like,
that was cool. I think I know exactly what part you're talking about. That part was really cool.
Yeah, like, it's a game that does something that, like, very few games do, and it tells you, like, you can't beat these guys. Like, there's nothing you can do. You have, like, no power.
Yeah.
You do have somebody that can. And then that's how you get past all that. And
it felt like it, like, that's so different. The combat in this game is more just support. It's so cool that way. Like, I mean, I spent most of the time when I was actually in combat just pulling spears out of
because you want
Trico.
to, like, keep them going.
Yeah,
and also one of my should we say this? I don't know. Well, let's just, like, cut it right here. We're gonna go into spoilers. Unless because I don't want to say this because it does happen like a couple hours into the game, and it just feels like I should kind of save it because I was very surprised by it.
Okay, let's.
So full on spoilers from here on out. Like,
right.
Just if you haven't played it, stop watching.
Free talk right now.
Yeah. Okay. So I loved that you could pet him. Right.
Oh yeah, it's so great.
I didn't want to, like, say that just in case somebody hadn't played, like, past that first, like, 3 hours or whatever. When they tell you that you can pet him. I don't know if you can pet him from the beginning, but
I think you can. I just think that no one really would think to, like, hold and circle when you're, like, near him or on him.
Yeah, like, petting him and, like, you can, like, wipe the blood off of his, like, feathers, and you can pet him. You have to pet him to calm him down after combat, or like, that's, like, on the level of the hand holding in Eco, in my opinion. And I thought the hand holding was, like, sick. Like all right, hand holding sick. No, I just I mean that in a way that, like, the hand holding was it was beautiful, and it was, like, a really novel thing to do where nobody had done that before. Not that I can think of, at least.
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody, if they have an idea.
But it not being the primary mechanic of the game.
Yeah. Where, like, the primary mechanic of The Last Guardian is just building a bond.
Yeah.
And it's when you think about it. And, like, that's why I like it so much, because it's not about trying to escape the castle or the nest, as they call it briefly in the beginning of the game. It's not about trying to, you're not trying to fight any like sort of evil or anything. No. There's no main antagonist.
There is. You could call. Again, we're in full spoiler mode here. So Master of the Valley is the antagonist.
I guess.
Is it even like a biological thing? That's what does it have a mind?
I don't know.
That's what freaks me out.
There's some sort of deep symbolism in this that I'm sure that Fumito Ueda had cooked up that I don't know what it is.
I'm sure
I need to think about it more before I make a decision.
Do you think this is going to be a yearly play for you?
No, I don't even know if I'll play it again.
Really?
Like The Last of Us. Like, that's one of those games where I played it once. I don't think I'll play it again. Huh. I might play it again come part 2.
Just for the refresher.
And I mean, like, this is different than Shadow of the Colossus, where Shadow of the Colossus, like, I love those boss battles.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Like that game is the only
it's
game.
It's a game-year game.
Yeah, and that's like that's what you were talking about, like Last Guardian being a hard sell to just like anybody. I think Shadow of the Colossus is the easiest sell because if you find someone who really likes Legend of Zelda, you can pretty much convince them that Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah, these are your dungeons.
Yeah,
or whatever.
Yeah, and that's a really cool idea. But on the level of just playing a game, this is a harder sell.
Yeah, one of the things Fumito Ueda said was like he really enjoyed making Ico, and he thought Ico, like, he was very happy with it when it came out, but that game didn't sell particularly well. It's like, and that sucks, but when he made Shadow of the Colossus, he wanted to kind of get, like he said, it was great to have the critical success and to have the fans and everything, but we kind of wanted to make something that would appeal to everybody, or attempt to appeal to everybody, and Shadow of the Colossus was that, where you see way more people talking about Shadow of the Colossus than they talk about Ico.
Because you have a sword and you have,
it's easier to understand.
And
it's easier to grasp.
It's very digestible.
Yeah. And Last Guardian is definitely more akin to Ico.
Yeah.
So, like, that definitely takes it back a notch. Where I saw a story, like, right after it came out that Dead Rising 4 was outselling The Last Guardian.
Oh,
my God, it hurts.
That's really painful to hear.
But it's indicative of, like, what people want and what people, in
the kind of gaming
are easier.
Culture.
Yeah. And, I mean, like, I'm not surprised. Obviously, like, what are you going to sell more of a game with, zombies in it, or a game with a giant, animal?
That you just are friends with.
Yeah, that you're friends with. yeah, so that's the story of this game. But the story of this game really, well, it builds, right? It builds in a sense that you're, gaining this, not only, like, in the game there is apparently some sort of, like, inner workings, like, behind it, where, like, you are gaining, like, his trust more and more throughout the game. He listens to you a bit more towards the end. It's a lot of mental things, where, like, oh man, like, I hate seeing him get his shit rocked by this other Trico.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even watch this. Like, I have to figure something out, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely, like, in the ending fight on the top of the tower, when he was getting, like I was talking about earlier, getting just massacred. Yeah. By all those other Tricos. I had a legitimate emotional reaction to seeing, like, his tail get ripped off. And
stuff. That hurt me.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no.
That was
like, my jaw was dropped.
Yeah.
I can't. Yeah.
I was convinced that he was dead. I was convinced he was dead when he fell down the tower and you saw him laying there.
And you have to nurse him back to health or whatever.
Yeah. I was, and another just, like, feeling of, like, no, don't, like, And that's something to really be, taken seriously.
Yeah, like, let's go through, like, the main story beats, which are, like, the intro, right? The intro is you're gaining Trico's trust, so that way he can, like, listen to you, or he'll, kind of at least trust you to not, be a dick, and come in and, like the rest of the guards.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the rest of it is, from there, you're gaining his trust. He does that cute thing where he, like, jumps over the thing, he follows you.
That's what I was just about to talk about, that part.
Yeah, that one hit my heart. It was beautiful. Like,
such a cute moment, and, like, the boy even says, like, no, don't follow me, I'm going back to my village. Like,
and he he wants to help you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you helped him. He was, all beat up.
And it's another thing to speak to the fact that he is an animal. It's like when you feed a cat, when you help a cat, it'll follow you.
Yeah, it'll follow you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, I think it's, like, pretty beautiful, like, that they captured that, in only, like, half an hour.
Yeah.
Like you had that response to him following you.
To me, I think something that's kind of sad, I understand it, but it's a little sad, is that, like, the trailer campaign there at the end only showed, like, a bit where you're running from the guards, and like Trico jumps down all dramatic, roars at them, and like you jump and you have like an Indiana Jones moment and stuff. That to me wasn't the game. That wasn't a good.
There are moments like that.
There are moments, but it wasn't a good description to me of the game.
Yeah, but I mean, you need that to sell it. This game, they took so long on it. They needed to sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
they spent so much time and money. Into this, but
like just pissing fucking money away.
Yeah.
Fucking selling that shit. But they, I think they did a good job, like providing the consistent story beats though, where you hit that first puzzle with the stained glass. After that, like it's the next like thing. It's like, oh, you don't like these? Okay, great. I know for the rest of the game that this is what I'm doing, getting rid of these stained glass window things. Yeah. And there's like that whole set piece where the first bridge collapses, right? And that was awesome. Really cool. And like, he like saves you, and you get back up there, and maybe pet him a bit, and you move on to the next thing. And then the next big set piece that I can remember, I think is. I don't even know.
I don't remember.
I don't want to say it's not the fight. The fight is like definitely the big one for me though.
The fight, as in the first fight between.
Trico and the other Trico.
Right.
Yeah, so I think there's a consistent, pace, throughout it. That here's reasons why you should love Trico and all of this. You make it to that first fight. He almost dies. Right?
Yeah.
You nurse him back to health.
Yeah.
Once you do that, he does the thing where you almost die.
That's right. Yeah.
And then that just broke my heart.
Are you talking about the bit where you end up in the barrel in that like cage thing, and you're rolling around?
I love that part. That I forgot about that.
That bit's really cool.
Never mind. I think that happened before what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about that because I think that's one of the best parts of the game. Where you're on your own, you get separated from Trico, right? Where you're making it through the mines.
Yeah.
And it collapses on him.
Yeah. Yep.
That was terrible. I was like, oh my god, no. And then you have to kind of go on your own, and like that part does a great job of illustrating how helpless you are without him. Where like there's this big gap in the beginning, right? Like the stairs have collapsed, and it's like if I had Trico, I could jump over that.
This. Yeah.
And then you have to like go on like walk on this rail up precariously and everything like that.
Yeah.
And you make it over, and you finally like make it up to the top, and there's this other Trico up there. He's just coming at you.
Yeah, and he just attacks you.
Yeah, that part's awesome.
He's ruthless.
Yeah, that part, like, there are a couple parts in this game where like my jaw was dropped. It's like, holy crap.
Yeah, I mean,
like, what is happening?
The thing that's really cool is that you can see like that this other Trico is very violent, and like they give you that feeling of dread. Like, this thing is terrifying.
Yeah.
But I'm hanging out with the same species, and he's just my bud.
Yeah, he's just my. Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy.
And when you see that the whole fleet of Tricos coming in there at the end, you're like, oh my god, like, this is horrible.
Yeah, there were a couple moments that were just crazy. I don't want to talk about the ending yet. I do want to go through to I don't want to talk about like the kind of half deaths of both of the characters.
Right.
But like those really cemented like their relationship, like where you saw how upset the boy was. You saw how the boy was really you, where I was really upset.
Yeah.
Right? And then you saw how upset the Trico was when he thought that the boy was dead. And that was just where he was like nudging him.
Yeah.
He's carrying him around.
That was like even more upsetting.
Yeah, that was more upsetting to me, to be honest. And then you finally, you both are back on your feet, and you're making your way to the, Master of the Valley, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you finally get there that first time. The other Trico attacks you.
Mm-hmm.
There's that awesome scene, like on the bridge, right, where you make it there, and then the other Trico comes in with the guards and forces you off, and the bridge collapses.
Yep.
Like, that part was just crazy.
That was really cool.
And I want to say that's like the first time he ever like glides.
Yeah.
And like that was just crazy. Like that was just crazy to me. I was like, holy shit! Like, oh, he's getting his wings back. Like, we're gonna get some flight in here.
And that's one of the coolest things. Like, is the progression of his wings. I don't know why. I thought that was really interesting. Like in the beginning, like you're like he has these wings, but he can't fly. Yeah. And then about halfway through the game, he like actually glides, and you're like, wait, he can do this. And then you're at that final part where you like get the two bridges together.
Oh, and he like winds back.
Yeah.
I was like, man, why am I getting these bridges together? Like, there's a reason. And he winds back. I'm like, that's why we're doing it.
It was so good. It was so good.
And he makes it. Yeah, there's so many great moments like that in this game. Like moments that I probably won't ever forget.
Yeah.
Because of like how well executed they were. But most well executed.
Right.
Is that ending.
And
it's heavy.
Are we going into the ending?
Yeah, let's just talk about the ending because that's what most people would want to hear about.
Yeah. So what happened?
Okay, so what happened?
That's what I want to know.
I can tell you what happened.
All right.
This is what I think happened. You make it to the top of that tower, right? There's that huge fight scene, right, with all the guards coming at you, and Trico's like attacking them. And I'm over there ripping their heads off.
On the white tower thing? Yeah, okay. The first time you land there.
Yeah, there's some great puzzles in there, by the way.
Yeah, there are.
I loved some of those.
That was really cool when you have to get all the guards alive.
I love dragging his tail down into the hole.
That was cool. Cool.
I wish they'd used that more in the game. But like,
I love that moment. Carl was actually watching me play it, and we were like figuring it out together. He was like, yo, pull that one Trico's tail underneath where that bridge goes. I was like, can I do that? And then I grabbed it. I was like, oh!
I loved that. That was crazy. And you had to slam. Yeah. That Trico fight was heavy.
That was awesome.
But, I loved using his tail. Like, that, I feel like that entire like scene was like very well executed, where like you only have his tail in that part, right? When you drag it through the grates and you're taking out the rest of the guys and all their helmets, you're activating the elevator, I think, right? And I feel like that was really well executed because it was kind of a canary in the coal mine of sorts,
right?
Of what you would need to do when after that whole fight scene, after I was ripping everybody's heads off, after Trico was just destroying the suits, right? When you finally get up there and then you just get attacked, right? And all of these Tricos, they surround you. They're bringing kids in from the villages. They're getting I don't know if they're turning the kids into the barrels.
I think it's an offering to.
Yeah, it's an offering, and then he's giving them the barrels in return.
Yeah.
That's what I want it to be. I really don't want it to be that they're eating kids.
Yeah.
I really don't like that.
If that's the case, you've been feeding Trico kids this whole time.
Pretty messed
and that's
up.
Horrifying.
Yeah, it is.
But
open to interpretation of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I thought I honestly think the best puzzle in the game was the Master of the Valley thing where you have to push the thing into the circle. You know what I mean? Like the corrosion.
That was good. Yeah, that was really good.
And you climb that whole.
I loved the water puzzles, personally, where you had to, especially the one where after you finally get through, right, where you have to actually like position him correctly. He'll do it. He does it automatically.
Oh,
but you have to get it. Yeah. He dives. You get out. And then you have to do it again, and it's like, oh, there's no ladder here. What am I doing in here? And then you have to call him in, and he jumps in and moves the water up.
That was cool.
That was really good. Cool. Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
It was one of those things that I like. It was one of the only moments in the game where I was like, if I hadn't been playing Shadow of the Colossus and Eco directly before this, I would never been in that mindset to like think that could be a possibility.
Well, I saw it like when he jumped in the first time, and I was like, holy shit, the water rose up a ton, messed me up, and I was like, wait a minute. I got that. Yeah, I thought that was really smart. There's some really great puzzles. Some moments in that game that made me think like I did in The Witness, where like The Witness is like constantly those moments of like, got it, like just these revelations kind of, and that's hard to achieve.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the feeling I get when when I'm blasting through Dark Souls bosses, and you're like what is this, the weakness to this?
Yeah, how do I do
this? And then it clicks, and you're like,
yeah, and it's one of the best.
I see what it wants me to do.
Games. Yeah, but back to the ending. I don't think he's eating kids. I hope it's not kids. Those the barrels are shining with something, and I hope it's not souls. All right, I don't know if they're taking out their souls or something. Don't want to know.
Anyway,
it's upsetting.
We're on the bridge. All right, well, not the bridge, the tower.
Yeah, and Yeah, so like I what I was saying earlier is I liked how you had the tail puzzle where you were using only the tail. It's just you and the tail down there, right? When you were trying to activate the elevator, and that was kind of a way to clue you in. Where like later when you only have the tail, you have to drag it down to kill the master of the valley. Like that's good game design in my opinion. Where
I didn't even think of that.
Or it's like, oh yeah, I got to use this tail.
Yeah. That was cool. That was really cool.
That was really good. Yeah, you end it.
I thought, like, when the tail fell down, I was like, did I just lose? Like, because I thought I had to use it for other things. And I was like, oh, no. But, yeah. That was really cool.
Yeah, no, like, that whole ending sequence where, like, they're going at him, I was, like, panicking. I was like, I don't even know what to do. I don't know what to do. Right?
I thought there would be some, like, black screen, like he died.
Oh, yeah, no, that would have been terrible if they did that. I hate when games do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but when you figure it out and, the rest of the Tricos are like, what's going on? Right?
And they all start killing themselves. That was weird.
I don't know what happened. I don't know if they died or what happened or if they're falling out of the sky.
They're falling out of the sky. They're falling off the bridge by just walking off. It was weird.
I have no clue. But the one that you fought earlier, they show later. Or they show like, when you're flying away. But no, like that moment when like the sun is shining in and like you're laying there like seemingly dead and Trico like sticks his head in and he's all messed up and his hair is like all...
His eyes are all messed up.
Yeah, his eyes are all puffed up and stuff. I'm just like, God, why? And then they make it all better when he picks you up, puts you on his back, or I think he just is carrying you.
He like swallows you.
Does he swallow you?
Yeah,
okay, good. Oh yeah, true. Yeah, and he runs off the top of it and flies. It's like, God.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful, yeah, and like the one Trico that you fought earlier is like, barking back up at you.
Yeah.
Whatever he's doing, and you fly away. And I was like, that's the end of the game. That was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And then it comes back. And heavy.
Yeah.
Heavy. Yeah, you go back to the village, right?
Yeah, and he spews you up, and the other villagers start... I mean, because you have to admit, the other villagers saw this
getting
get abducted.
Yeah.
And he... Like, obviously is, they pick him up and they're all, like, ready to kill him. I thought they were going to kill him. That's what I thought
that would have been terrible. I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much if they killed him.
Yeah.
But I think it's almost more heartbreaking when you have to say,
no.
You have to say go. You have to say go. I was like, no.
When I realized that they were staying on that shot, and I was like, wait, I have to do something, don't I?
Yeah.
And I hit the R1, and he's like, Trico. I was like, no!
You son of a bitch. No.
Mita, why are you doing this to me?
Because he said, I realized what I had to do. I had to say the words.
Oh, no.
God, that hurt. And when he flies away, right, and he's, like, stumbling, he barely makes it out of there. And it says he probably doesn't have long to live. I'm like, oh, no, right? And that's the way the game ended for a lot of people, really.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you didn't stay till after those credits.
Yeah, if you hit that start button.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it would have taken you to that scene. I hope it does. I don't know. I waited. I was like... Because I loved listening to the music.
I mean,
also.
Eco and Shadow both had an after credits sequence, so I mean, probably gonna be in this one too.
So the after credits is you as a man, man
with a beard.
Yeah, and these other little boys are like, what is this? What is this shield? Right, it's the title screen.
Yeah,
you're back to the title screen.
I thought it was the title screen. I thought it had brought me back.
Yeah, so it zooms out.
And
here you are, with the shield and the boys.
The boys.
Yeah. Not Noctis and the boys.
No,
those are different
not
boys.
Noctis.
Those are different boys.
But...
yeah, but so I mean, like I thought that ending scene was like great.
Do you think that the Trico that they panned in on at the end, because it's the Tricos with the eyes? Do you think that is our Trico?
I do.
You do.
I don't know why else they would have panned to it.
Yeah, but there were two eyes.
Two eyes. I think Trico's a girl. I think that's Trico's son or daughter. Baby Trico.
That's what your theory is.
Yeah.
That's where. Okay. All right.
I think so because there's like, well, why else would they show?
It was a smaller Trico.
Yeah, I think there's another Trico. I think that like he lived a nice life, and like there's that one line where it's like though we be but far, and he's like, oh, it hurt my soul, dude. Like he's all far away. Like they're still there, man. Like they still had that time together, and it sucks. You know, and it's beautiful.
I love that line. That one line in the favorite line in the whole game. He says something. I'm probably gonna misquote it, but he says something like, and that was our extraordinary story.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh
no, no, you can't leave me like that. Like he probably has. I think that's what he says immediately following. He probably doesn't have long. I was like, oh god.
But big question here. Do you think that Fumito is going to make another game ever again?
Yeah, I thought about that. No, I don't know.
I
think so.
It's a little weird. We can cut this section out if we want to just, stay on Last Guardian.
We should just leave it. Yeah, I mean, yes. Do I think he knows what it is yet? No. Do I think he's going to go right into it? No. I think you're going to be waiting.
He should. I think he should take some time to kind of reflect upon this experience.
Yeah, I've been reading a ton of interviews with him because I've been trying to gather information for that video I'm doing.
Right.
And somebody asked him, like, what are you going to do next? There's a big indie scene, right?
Mm-hmm. Of games that he pretty much heralded in.
Yeah, like, nobody would have been making any of this without Ico.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, he's like, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. He said I might do something AAA, but it's going to be smaller scale, probably.
And he's been doing AAA the whole time, so...
Yeah.
Why would he back out now?
That's true. Yeah, I just think he wants to do something like this again. No doubt. Like, I think he's gonna do. Is he gonna do it in the same world? I don't know. Is he gonna work with Sony? I don't know what terms they're on.
I mean, Shuhei has been championing this game, so I don't think that the terms are bad.
Yeah, I mean that was the worry for a long time, right? Where he left. And one of the producers on the game also left to go work somewhere else, and like they're like, oh yeah, Fumito, he's like still working with us, but he's a contractor right now. He's not full time with us, and that was that the assumption was that they're not getting along or whatever, and that was a different Sony back then though. In my opinion, that PS3 era Sony. So like I feel like maybe. You see their initiative with a lot of like indie studios. They're trying to get like. I'm sure they would love to have him back to make another game. I'm sure like because
they made a Vita game.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I'm sure Sony's just like everybody there is just trying to get him to stay. Yeah, but I don't know if he will.
I mean, I don't think like you're saying. I don't think he's interested in making another like Journey type of thing, a 2-hour little indie experience.
No, I just think he's gonna do something. Maybe a little safer next time because obviously they had a lot of trouble with this one, but he was determined to get that shit out. Obviously,
yeah. I mean, it's something to be respected, no matter what the wait time is. Like the fact that he had a vision for this game, and he saw it through to the end, no matter like all the hundreds of struggles I'm sure they faced in production. They got the game out and we played it.
Yeah, I don't think that they're ever gonna. I mean, anybody. I don't think anybody's gonna do anything like this ever again. Like, not in our lifetimes at least. Like, I just don't think. Number one, the concept itself is already kind of wishy-washy as far as like sales go. We're like, oh yeah, we got this game with this big giant bird dog, and he's gonna you be friends. Right. It's like that's hard to sell to a publisher, especially. Where I feel like Sony may be the only one that would have let him do it in the first place. Yeah. So. Yeah, I think he's gonna make something else. He did start Gen Design somewhere in the middle there. We don't know when, right? So like that is Team Ico. Like I'm sure many of the people that were on Team Ico followed him there. Yeah. Right. So he did start Gen Design, and that is just Team Ico. I'm sure they're gonna keep making games just like this. I don't think that anything. The next thing you see from him, I'm sure, will be very similar in the art style.
In the art style, I have a feeling that he's gonna do the same kind of cycle. He's gonna end up doing something combat oriented.
You think?
Something a little bit more digestible to the premium audience.
I'll tell you what though, I really would. I hope he works with Sony again. Not because like I care what platform it's on. I want him to work with Sony again because you see these Death Stranding trailers. they like. This is a different Sony. They'll let him do whatever the fuck he wants.
Sony,
if they're gonna let Kojima do that, they're gonna let. He'll do Last Guardian 2. I don't give a fuck.
In an awesome place right now, I think. They're doing a lot of innovation and a lot of different things that, like, they're letting developers do whatever they want, essentially, and they're coming up with and doing much more risky things like VR, and I think it's really amazing, and I hope that I agree with you. I hope that he sticks with Sony for that sole purpose, so that he's not trying to meet all these marketing troubles.
Yeah, no, I just feel like I can't think of another publisher that would let him do whatever he wants like that. Yeah. Where like even you see people like you see somebody like EA come out and they did that Yarny game. You remember that? And they're like, oh, this is like our new initiative. We're gonna do something a little bit different, something maybe a little bit more heartfelt, And they immediately came out like, hey, it didn't sell well. Like, are you gonna get another one? I don't know.
Yeah.
So but Sony, like they're in more of a position to take a loss on something like that. They know that it gets them goodwill with like the gaming audience.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean,
so
they know that like in the last PSX, they brought Gio out to talk about the Vita.
Yeah, Ease of Origin and Danganronpa V3 got on that fucking stage.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, the fact that
incredible.
That they're still championing these like really niche audiences, and I think that's where Fumito is going to get his success.
Exactly. Yeah, so like, consensus on this game, it's one of my favorite games of all time. I would say favorite depending on the day.
Okay.
So that's all you need to know from
my
me.
Position, and like I said 10 out of 10, but that is that's like I was saying about other things, that's almost reductive to give it a score. It's not about the game, it's about the experience and the story. I would say in terms of my favorite games of all time, I don't have one that I can just say, but it was by a landslide over Dark Souls 3, which Dark Souls is my favorite game series. It's my favorite game of the year.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm with there.
2016 has been just destroyed by that game for me.
Yeah, but we're talking about game of the year. You can hear about that soon.
Oof.
And next week, watch out. We're going to have a big old argument. It's going to be good.
Yeah, it's going to get real toasty.
Yeah. But anyways, thanks for sticking with us if you watched.
Please play The Last Guardian.
Yeah, play it.
I mean, it's just play it. It's $60 is worth it for this experience. You're not going to get it again.
I wholeheartedly agree. Yeah. But anyways, that's our review of The Last Guardian. We went on a bit longer than I thought we were going to.
Yeah,
but
there's a lot to say.
There's a lot to say about this game. Yeah. And we didn't even say everything that needs to be said.
There's still a lot of things I could talk about this game, but I'm sure you could more too.
Oh, I could talk about this game for hours.
Yep.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it again on next week's episode.
Yes, we are.
With Alejandro.
I think we're going to be talking about this well into next year.
I'm going to be talking about this game for the rest of my life.